This is the video for Wednesday, May 13th that shows you how to fill out your graphic organizer if you chose narrative. If you want to write a story about life on the frontier. If you're choosing to write a story, there's two things that have to be decided before you can even really start planning your story. The first is the characters, or who are the people in the story. The second is the setting, or where the story takes place. So this first chart paper I have for you here is some character ideas of who can be in your story. Daniel Boone, Lewis and Clark, Sacagawea, George Drouillard. And also I've written that the setting is going to be the frontier. So we already know the setting, or where the story is going to take place. We know it's going to take place on the frontier. You have to decide who are going to be the characters in your story. Who is the story going to be about? Daniel Boone, blazing a trail through the Cumberland Gap. Lewis and Clark, heading westward. Sacagawea, who met them partway through, had her baby, and then continued on with them. George Drouillard, who served as a hunter, trapper, translator, right? A very skilled man. So if you want to pause, take some time to copy down one or two of these ideas to be the character in your story. This is the perfect time to do that. So you have your setting, where the story takes place, on the frontier. You need your character. Who are the people in your story? Go ahead, pause this video, take a couple minutes to look at this a little more closely, and make your decision. All right, I'm continuing on with the rest of this video. So I chose to write about one character in particular. One in particular. Thank you for bearing with me while I take this down so you can see the graphic organizer. Okay, make sure this is nice and straight so you guys aren't confused. Okay, so you may have noticed that my characters were written in green. This is the graphic organizer, and I have narrative, which means story, written at the top, also written in green. So if you're watching this video, this is the perfect time to text me, or after this video, text me, say, hey, Miss Kulma, I watched the video that had the green graphic organizer, and that'll help me remember that you're doing narrative writing as well. All right, so narrative, our topic, of course, life on the frontier, or our setting. So I've done this graphic organizer a little differently. I have some questions in here you want to think about as you're filling out your graphic organizer. So you have your character, and I'll show you who I wrote about in a second, and you have your setting. So now the best way to use this graphic organizer is to plan the plot, the sequence of events, what's going to happen to your characters in your story. So I've kept that in mind. First, you need to introduce your setting and characters. So Sacagawea met Lewis and Clark. Yes, I wrote about Sacagawea, which is my favorite. So the first thing I'm doing is introducing my character. I noticed here, met Lewis and Clark, I didn't write where they met. So I'm going to add a comma, so right here, so I know that my writing continues. Sacagawea met Lewis and Clark, comma, they spent the winter at Fort Mandan, and I will double check how to spell Mandan later. So they spent the winter at Fort Mandan. So I am introducing my characters, Sacagawea, Lewis and Clark, and the setting, Fort Mandan, just still in the middle of the fort, in the middle of the frontier. So first, I introduce my characters and where the story is taking place. If you want to use once upon a time, go ahead and use once upon a time. My second event. What happens to the characters? She agreed to be their guide and translator as they traveled west. Right? Why did she do that? Why did she make that agreement? So I'm going to add a detail, comma, because she was looking for somebody. Because she was looking for someone. So, the first thing you're doing is introducing your characters and where the story takes place. The second thing you're introducing is, in this instance, I'm introducing their agreement. She agrees to travel with them out west and be their guide and translator. Why? She's looking for someone. This is already a pretty intriguing story. So, first thing that happens, second thing that happens in my story. Now I need my third thing that happens. Now, the third thing that happens can be they all live, the problem gets solved, they all live happily ever after, right? But Sacagawea is still looking for her person. We don't know who that is. So, after she had her baby, she led them to new territory, the unknown ahead. So I'm leaving my story in a little bit of a cliffhanger. But this is an idea of how you can use your graphic organizer if you're writing a narrative, right? We already know the setting will be the frontier. Decide who your character is, and then use this graphic organizer to plan out your plot, to plan out what's going to happen to your characters. If you're not sure that you can fit all your writing in the boxes and you want to draw out pictures with labels instead, that is a great way to plan. But make sure you have a very clear idea after you finish this graphic organizer what your story will look like, what events will happen in your story. So that is the graphic organizer for narrative writing. It is written in green. So if you text me, say, Ms. Kulma, I watched the green graphic organizer video, I know you plan on writing an amazing, wonderful story. That's it for graphic organizer for narrative writing. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!